Welcome to Hard Script.
I didn't know our marriage had a public expiration date until she laughed about it in a viral video. We were in the kitchen just after dinner. The lights were dim, laughter aging into that comfortable lull between familiar bodies at peace. I was stacking plates when my phone kept buzzing in my pocket. Ignored it until the volume grew. Comments, notifications, tags. I peeked at the screen. She was live on TikTok, speaking to strangers. Her smile too staged. Words too rehearsed. Sometimes I wonder why I married someone who doesn't post anything about us. I mean, if it's not online, did it even happen? Her laugh was like glass shattering. Sharp, brittle. A punch wrapped in a public broadcast. I didn't respond. Didn't interrupt. Let her perform for her followers, even though the only one she hurt was me. After she ended the live, the comments exploded. Who cares about your real marriage anyway? Marriage material? Fake love alert. She smiled reading it. Maybe she thought it was clever content, but I felt it on my skin. Cold. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because of anger, but because of clarity. I saw how our marriage had become a stage, and I was the unpaid actor in her viral show. And she didn't even know, or didn't care, when the audience started laughing at me instead of with us. I made a list. What did I need to do if I stopped being an accessory? How do you vanish when your face is optional content? That list was stolen moments of a man discovering how much he didn't belong in the story anymore. The next morning, she brought up the video over breakfast. Said she meant it as a joke. That our marriage was fine. She was just looking for engagement. I nodded. I smiled. Inside, I closed my eyes and began walking away, without moving. Because you don't argue with someone broadcasting your demise. You disappear. And that's when everything really started. By the time she crossed 10,000 followers, I had already changed the passwords to every shared account we owned. Netflix, Amazon, even our grocery delivery. I kept the Wi-Fi, of course. Wouldn't want to interrupt the content pipeline. She was too busy recording to notice anything else. What she did notice, days later, was that our joint checking account had been split. Her card declined at the salon. She came home irritated, waving the phone like it was broken. I told her the bank had flagged suspicious activity. She nodded, distracted, half listening, already planning her next post. It was almost too easy. She thought I was still there, still playing along. But I had already left in every way that mattered. There's a specific kind of betrayal that doesn't scream. It calculates. It prepares. I started sleeping on the couch again. Claimed it was the snoring. Or back pain. She didn't question it. In fact, she welcomed it. More space for her late-night scrolling. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. I was surgical. I removed her name from the lease on the storage unit. I backed up everything that mattered to me, family photos, legal papers, personal documents, and moved them out in quiet waves. She didn't even notice the gaps on the shelves. Every evening she'd sit on the couch, ring light on, face filtered, telling her followers how she'd never settle for boring love again. They laughed. They sent emojis and cash tips. She smiled like she was winning something. But I was already erasing her backstage access to my life. I muted her social media, blocked notifications. She would never see my digital trail again. I was cleaning house, digitally first, physically next. She once joked on a live stream. If he ever left, I probably wouldn't notice for a week. She was half right. At work, I spoke to HR about moving offices, quietly. I told them it was for focus, less distraction. They approved it fast. She used to text me during the day constantly, memes, ideas, mock posts. Now I left them unread. Everything about me became unavailable, unreachable, unbothered. And yet, I still smiled across the table when we shared meals. I still asked how her day was. Still held the door open. But that man she thought she was with, he was already gone. You don't warn someone before you disappear. You just stop being the person they think they can mock. The thing about constantly filming your life is that eventually, someone watches too closely. She thought she was in control. Every post, every reel, edited to perfection. Our marriage became her brand, comic relief wrapped in sarcasm. I was the emotionally unavailable husband, the silent punchline in her stories. The internet loved it. But one morning, something shifted. She had uploaded a video the night before. I hadn't seen it. By then, I'd stopped watching anything with her voice in it. But at work, one of my colleagues pulled me aside, awkwardly. Hey, uh, just so you know, you're kind of in that new clip she posted. The one about the silent treatment game. I didn't flinch. I asked for the link, watched it on mute. There I was, blurry in the background, walking out of the kitchen in sweatpants, mug in hand. No shirt. She had zoomed in and captioned it, "When your husband's midlife crisis includes oat milk and brooding." Thousands of likes. Hundreds of laughing emojis. But the comment section, it was turning. Someone asked, "Does he know you film him like this?" Another replied, "Kind of feels like emotional exploitation." Then came the thread. A long one. Someone had stitched together clips, over months, pointing out how I never smiled, how I always looked disconnected. They called it the invisible divorce. It went viral within hours. She noticed, and for the first time in months, I saw a panic behind her filters. She tried to play it off, posted a teary-eyed apology video that somehow still felt performative. Said she never meant to paint her marriage in a bad light, that it was just jokes. But the algorithm didn't care about intentions. It cared about engagement. And her apology racked up more views than anything she'd done before. That night, she asked if I was mad. Said she'd take it down. I told her not to bother. "It's already out there," I said. My voice didn't rise. My face didn't twitch. Just calm. Like the ocean before a storm. She stared at me for a long time, waiting for something. Anger, emotion, maybe even forgiveness. But I had none of those left. Not for her. You see, when the world starts noticing what you've quietly endured, there's no need to scream. The silence becomes the loudest part. She went to bed early that night. I stayed up, deleting our shared calendar, disconnecting our smart home app, backing up footage from our security cameras. Not because I needed proof, but because I was done letting her control the narrative. The next week, she started posting us again. Old clips, vacation photos, forgotten anniversary moments pulled from the cloud, edited to soft music, with captions like, "Love takes work. We're still working." She wanted to rewrite the past, wrap it in nostalgia, sell the idea that we were still together, still fighting for something. But she didn't realize the fight was already over. And she was the only one left in the ring. The comments didn't fall for it. People remembered. The stitched clips. The sarcasm. The silence in my eyes. Someone wrote, "You can't romanticize a man you publicly ignored." Another replied, "You filmed the damage. Now you want to erase the bruises?" It didn't matter what she posted next. The story had slipped out of her hands, and I didn't need to say a word. Offline, she started acting sweeter, more present, made breakfast 2 mornings in a row, sat next to me during a show I never liked. But the distance wasn't physical anymore. It was bone deep. I had moved my work computer to a co-working space downtown. Told her it helped me concentrate. She didn't question it. But that space became something else. A pocket of freedom, my own version of air. I started walking home instead of driving. Just to think. To let the noise of the street drown out everything I no longer wanted to hear from her. One night, she knocked on my door. Yes, my door, because I had started locking the bedroom again. Said she wanted to talk. Not for a video, just us. I listened. Not to her words, but to the pause between them. That's where truth always lives. She said she missed me. That she missed us. But us was never the point. Not anymore. She didn't miss me. She missed the man who made her look stable in front of her audience. The man who gave her life narrative weight. But I had stripped that story away, piece by piece. And the silence she once mocked? It was now the only response she couldn't edit. After she left the room, I opened my phone. One message. A lawyer I'd quietly retained months ago confirmed the draft was ready. No threats. No loud fights. Just clean lines and clear exits. I didn't send it yet, but I slept better that night than I had in years. Desperation has a smell. You notice it before the words come. It's in the pacing, the fidgeting, the forced smiles that crack under their own weight. That morning, she went live. Not just a video, a full-blown live stream. Makeup perfect, hair curled just right, sitting on our couch like it was a movie set. She called it, "Let's Talk About Love." I didn't watch it in real time, but the internet did. And it did what it always does, remembered everything. She started soft. Said relationships weren't easy, that real love had ups and downs, and that she and I were working through things in private. Except she didn't stop there. She called me a good man, just distant. Said I was going through something. framed my silence as emotional fragility, cast herself as the one holding things together. The chat was filled with hearts and sympathy, until she slipped. She joked, because that's what she does, about how I needed therapy more than intimacy, and that, at least the camera listens. You could hear the silence. Not mine. Hers. Mid-sentence, realizing what she'd said. She tried to pivot, laugh it off, but the tone had shifted. The comments turned. Some called it brave. Others called it narcissistic. A clip of that exact moment spread across forums within hours. No editing required. People didn't just notice the disrespect. They noticed my absence, and how she filled it with performance instead of apology. I came home that night to a very quiet house. She didn't mention the live stream, just asked if I wanted dinner. I said I already ate. No anger. No expression. She nodded like she expected it. But I could feel the tremor in her energy, like she knew something cracked, but didn't know how deep. What she didn't realize was that I had already begun cleaning out the storage unit. Not out of spite. Not even preparation. Just clarity. The boxes she thought were full of old tech were gone. I'd sold half of it, donated the rest. My name was removed from utilities. The joint savings was already split. I wasn't hiding anything. I was just done explaining. That weekend, her mother called me. Said she'd been crying. Asked what was happening. I didn't answer directly. I just said, "You might want to check her public page." She went quiet. I wasn't trying to shame her daughter. But when someone turns their life into a stage, the curtain falls on its own. Monday morning, I signed the papers. It wasn't dramatic. No courtroom. No confrontation. Just a quiet room, a sharp pen, and a printed copy of what used to be a life. The woman at the office asked if I wanted a certified copy sent to her directly. I said yes. No note. No message. Just the truth, in black and white. By the time she opened her inbox, I was already out of the apartment. Not forever. Not yet. But enough to finish what I'd started. Clean exits. No loose ends. She posted again that night. A photo of us from 2 years ago, smiling under holiday lights, with the caption, "Every couple goes through storms. Love wins when we hold on." The comments weren't what she expected. Someone wrote, "Love doesn't mock. Love doesn't perform." Another, "He's not holding on. He's letting go." Then the real blow came. A follower, a quiet one with a good memory, shared a side-by-side screenshot. One frame of her crying on camera, and another from 3 months back, wearing the same robe, same lighting, same tears. Staged. Timed. Recycled grief for fresh clicks. Her likes dropped by the hour. She deleted the post by morning. But the screenshots had already gone viral. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. She texted me once. "Can we talk?" I didn't answer. Not because I wanted to punish her. Because there was nothing left to say. The illusion was cracking faster than she could manage. Meanwhile, I changed the locks at the storage unit. Reassigned my mail forwarding. Moved the last of my gear into the spare apartment I'd been quietly renting for 2 months. The silence between us wasn't a wall. It was a message. Every action I took was a sentence she couldn't interrupt. A paragraph she couldn't edit. Her audience was still watching, but the narrative had slipped away. What began as content turned into exposure. And exposure turns cold fast. She started turning up at places I used to go, my gym, my coffee shop. I saw her once, across the street. She didn't wave. Just stood there, phone in hand, probably hoping I'd walk over. I didn't. That night, she posted a vague quote. "You only miss what you thought you had." For once, no one replied. Not even me. I heard she lost 2 brand deals in a week. It wasn't sudden. Just a quiet pulling back. One brand reevaluating their partnerships. The other taking a new direction. Standard PR language for, "We don't want your drama near our product." Her circle started shrinking too. At first, she leaned on her best friend, Monica. But then Monica stopped sharing their lunches on her stories. Stopped tagging her. Stopped commenting. People were stepping away, not out of cruelty, but to save their own skin. Even her sister, who used to defend her with blind loyalty, posted something cryptic. Sometimes, the truth doesn't hurt. It sets people free. No names. But everyone knew. Meanwhile, I kept moving. I deleted our shared playlists. Shut down the joint email we used for bills. I even returned her old family photos to her parents. In a sealed envelope. No note inside. The silence wasn't just my absence. It was an atmosphere now. It followed her into every room. It echoed when she logged in, hoping for dopamine hits from likes and shares, and found only stillness. I never blocked her. She could still see everything. That was deliberate. If she wanted to look, she'd see a version of me she didn't recognize. I wasn't flaunting a new life. I just wasn't hiding from it anymore. I started hiking again. Old trails I used to love before the phone became a leash. I got coffee with people I used to cancel on. Laughed more. Spoke less. And I slept better than I had in years. One afternoon, she called from a number I didn't recognize. I let it ring. Then another, and another. Finally, a voicemail. I messed up. I know. But, can we please just talk once? I didn't respond. Not because I hadn't heard her, but because I had heard enough. The thing about silence, real silence, is that it strips away the performance. There's no applause, no defense, no illusion. Just consequence. She tried one more time. She showed up at my old apartment, stood outside for 20 minutes. She didn't knock. Maybe she wasn't sure I was even there. I was. But I watched from the other side, behind closed blinds, just breathing. She left without saying anything. This time, she was the one walking away in silence. And it sounded exactly like closure. I should have known she wouldn't go down quietly. Her silence was always temporary, just long enough to build the next spectacle. One morning, my phone buzzed with messages. Not from her, but from friends, co-workers, even my barber. They were all sending the same link. She had uploaded a video. Thumbnail. Her face, tear-streaked and bare, titled, "I lost the love of my life." It wasn't an apology. It was performance art. A calculated monologue, 15 minutes long, where she cried on cue and painted our marriage as complicated. She didn't name me, but she didn't need to. She showed our wedding photo at the 10-minute mark. Blurred, but not enough. She talked about feeling misunderstood, about needing freedom, and how she regrets how things ended. She said, sometimes people change in ways they can't control. She never said the word betrayal. She never mentioned the mockery, the clips, the way she monetized our most private moments. But she ended it with this line, "If you're watching, I hope you know I still love you." That was her play, her last shot. She was trying to hijack the narrative, rewrite history while looking vulnerable. She underestimated me. I didn't respond. I didn't text, call, or even view the video under my account. I watched through a friend's burner, once, just to confirm what it was. And then I let it rot in the algorithm. But the internet isn't stupid. The comments turned. Slowly at first, then brutally. People pointed out the contradictions. Someone dug up her old clips where she mocked our home, where she joked about living with a man stuck in 2009. The timestamps didn't lie. Her likes started dropping. So did her followers. She disabled comments within 24 hours. By then, the damage was irreversible. Her brand, once loud and sharp, was unraveling. She tried pivoting, new content, new style, but it reeked of desperation. Even her lighting looked off. The confidence was gone. And me? I'd started teaching guitar again. Just once a week, but it felt good. Something real. I didn't post about it. Didn't announce a comeback. I just showed up. The world kept spinning, but hers was slowing down. She had always needed attention to feel real. I needed silence to become real again. And in the vacuum she left behind, something honest grew back in me. Something she couldn't film, edit, or hashtag. I didn't need revenge. I just needed distance. And now, finally, I had it. I hadn't seen her in person since the day I packed my things and left. No texts, no calls. No need. But life, as it does, has a cruel sense of timing. One random Tuesday evening, after a quiet session at a local guitar studio, I walked into a cafe down the street. One of those places with brick walls and too much ambient jazz. I ordered black coffee, no sugar, and sat by the window. She walked in 5 minutes later. I saw her before she saw me. That look, like she'd aged 6 years and 6 weeks. Hair tied in a loose bun, sunglasses pushed up into it, like she forgot they were there. Her shoulders carried the weight of every wrong move she'd tried to edit out. And then she noticed me. There was a pause, long enough for her to weigh whether she should approach. She did. She said my name softly. I looked up, nodded once. Didn't invite her to sit. She sat anyway. I kept sipping my coffee. She said she didn't expect to run into me. that she'd been thinking, that she missed how things used to be. I didn't answer. Her words spiraled, nostalgia, regret, all the usual notes. But it was her tone that revealed the truth. She wasn't sorry. She was lost. She said she watched one of my recent guitar clips, a short that someone else had posted, without tagging me. She said it reminded her of when things were simple. I didn't even blink. Then she asked the question that finally pulled a response from me. Do you ever think we could try again? I looked her in the eye, not angry, not bitter, just done. No, I said. That was it. She waited, like she thought more would come. It didn't. I stood, left a bill on the table, and walked out. No drama. No scene. Just air between us. Cold, sharp, final. Outside, the wind hit different. Clean. I walked to my car without turning back. Not because I was proving anything, but because there was nothing left to prove. She wanted a reaction. Closure. Even maybe a fight. But what she got was the one thing she couldn't control. Silence. And in that silence, the truth was louder than anything she ever posted. A few weeks passed. No new videos from her. No cryptic posts. No desperate apologies or orchestrated tears. It was like she had finally run out of ways to perform. Maybe she thought silence would make me curious. That I'd wonder how she was, what she was doing, if she was okay. But I didn't. That chapter, whatever it had been, was closed not with anger, but with clarity. I was living now, not recovering. I'd moved into a smaller place. Clean walls, hardwood floors, no unnecessary furniture. It felt like me again. Not us. Just me. And that was enough. One night, after finishing a class, I found myself sitting by the window with my guitar. No camera, no audience. Just me, the strings, and the late summer air. I played something I hadn't touched in years, a melody I wrote when we first met. Back when things felt real. Before filters, before sponsorships, before content became more valuable than connection. It wasn't nostalgia. It was a farewell. I paused halfway through the melody and realized something. She would never hear this. Not the song. Not this version of me. Not the man who had finally returned to himself. And that was the point. I didn't need her to see it, or validate it, or comment. The silence she once mocked now wrapped itself around me like armor. I wasn't hiding. I was just gone. Not gone from the world, but from her world, from her reach, from the old scripts. In the quiet, I'd grown stronger, sharper. My absence wasn't an act of revenge. It was a statement. She once said I was too still, too safe, too small. But now, it was that stillness that made me untouchable. And her chaos, the thing she thought made her interesting, it had left her empty. Sometimes, the most devastating punishment isn't a scream. It's the sound of the door never opening again. The story didn't end with fireworks. It ended with peace. And that's something she never knew how to live with. Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories.